Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob, where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob, and we want to welcome you to our brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. Before we get going here, Rob, you want to tell everybody what we're going to do here today?
Absolutely. On Say Hello to My Little Film, Ray and I take turns recommending movies that we love to the other in the hopes of getting them to love them as much as we do.
Yep, we call this our fresh perspective on a retrospective review. I've never seen the movie you're about to recommend, and I'm worried if I'm even going to like it, to be honest with you.
You should be. Let's be honest. You should be. Because at this point, this is my third month in a row where I am trying to recommend a movie that... Now, let's be clear. I'm not trying to recommend movies you are not going to like, but I am pushing you. No, that is unfair. That is unfair. That, I mean, in some regards, yes, but I am failing. But maybe I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I'm not recommending movies that you aren't going to like, but I am recommending movies that are outside of your comfort zone. I have just been lucky enough to have you like both of the two movies that I have done previously to this one.
So if you follow that same recipe, I'll be good. But if you're diverging from that, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going harder this time.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
you're like you've been so you've been on the journey with me. You've stayed up with me. You've kept up. So I got to keep going. I'm going to go farther. I'm going to keep going until I hit the wall. And this movie is no different. I think it's going to be a very fun ride. I can't wait to explain it to you. But yeah, this is going to be a very questionable choice.
So there's a chance I'll like it, but it's a very slim chance.
There's always a chance. I'm never bringing you a movie. Even when I recommended to you Pink Flamingos, I did not necessarily know that you were going to hate that movie.
I don't believe that for a
You
second.
can believe whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want.
All right, well, let enough avoiding the
dancing around.
Yeah, I guess the unavoidable. So, all right, Rob, please tell me, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
All right, Ray, what I got for you is something very special. As I said, this is a movie that is definitely going to push you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, and that is because it is the 1971 historical psychological horror smorgasbord, if you will,
oh boy,
called The Devils.
Good Lord.
It is directed by Ken Russell, who is a British director who is very notorious, I will say. He directed Altered States, which I could have done here. That's another one that, people kind of, it's out there. It's fine. But this movie is super great. It is a nunsploitation film.
Nunsploitation.
Nunsploitation.
So there's no exploitation going on at all. There's none.
No, there's definitely some exploitation. It's the exploitation of nuns.
The N-U-N nun.
It's the exploitation of nuns.
That's not a genre that really got taken off.
No, there are more of the movies out there than you might realize. But yes, I wouldn't necessarily say that is a ubiquitous genre that everybody knows about. But no, the Devils stars Vanessa Redgrave and Oliver Reed, and it is a dramatized historical account of the fall of Urbain Grandier, a 17th century Roman Catholic priest accused of witchcraft after the possessions of Loudon, France. And it's the person who made these accusations against him was a nun named Sister Jeanne d'Angers, and she is a hunchbacked, sexually repressed nun who is in love with Urbain and makes these accusations out of spite.
Spite?
Yeah. This is a wild movie. It was originally rated X when it was released in both the UK and the United States, and was banned in several countries.
Oh boy!
Because of its sexual and violent content.
So this month's episode is not for kids.
No, most definitely not. It actually did not. I think it was banned in the UK, and it actually didn't premiere in the UK until like 2002.
Oh, only 30
or
years
something
later.
like that. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong. But yeah, so there's a lot of great subject matter in this, though. There's a lot of sexual repression stuff, a lot of political corruption, because that's kind of the things, like the reasons why. So obviously this spirals out when this particular when Urbain is accused of these things because there are certain reasons why the government wants him gone. So there are kind of some interesting elements to that as well. So there is a really good story in here.
Okay.
Like, so that's I'm gonna preface this to you now. Like, with the content being what it is and Ken Russell being who he is, the content of this movie is super interesting. There is a lot. It is a period piece, obviously, as you can gather, but like, and it is based on actual like real life books and subject matter and stuff like that. So there is a very interesting element to this movie.
Is this like made with that B movie type thing where
No.
it's okay?
I don't think
it's
so.
really type
No.
serious.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was largely filmed at Pinewood Studios.
Okay.
So I mean, there like it was a
Yeah.
bigger budget movie, but like it was just I mean, like I'm looking at the wiki now just to kind of like get some of the little tidbits, and they like United Artists initially pitched the idea to Russell, but bowed out after reading his finished screenplay as they felt it was too controversial, and then Warner Brothers agreed to produce and distribute this movie, and it, like I said, largely filming took place at Pinewood. So like it had backing by studio money, but like I said, when it became an X-rated movie, there was some ideas that like maybe this isn't going to be
snuck
great.
some things in that maybe the producers didn't originally know.
Well, it's Ken Russell,
Yeah.
so again, he's pretty flamboyant in his movies. So yeah, but Oliver Reed is phenomenal in this movie. So that is one
Great
thing
acting.
about. Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing that these last two episodes that's kind of carried you through are the performances. And Vanessa Redgrave's great too. So don't get me wrong, but you might like both performances. But Oliver Reed is a powerhouse in this movie. So I'm very excited to show you this movie. But again, there is no guarantee you're gonna like it.
Well, all right. Well, Rob's excited.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm not sure if I'm excited.
You should be.
But if you guys go on this journey with me, don't make me do this on my own.
Come with us.
If you guys haven't seen The Devils, take this opportunity to do so. Pause the podcast, go watch The Devils, and then come back on Pause the podcast, and then listen to hear what Rob put me through and see if I ended up liking this movie as much as Rob hopes.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
What is that? What are you doing there?
That's the enchanting mating call of the hunchback nun.
It sounded a little orcish, actually.
It
Does
sounds
sound a little orcish
to you? We are back. We are back from watching The Devils. We are back from 17th century France. Ray.
Poor. First of all, speaking of hunchback nuns, I couldn't help poor like Vanessa Redgrave, the actress who played Sister Jeanne or Jeanne, like the crick in the neck she must have had at the end of shooting. It's like a lad, like 90 days of shooting can leave you such a crick in the neck. That poor woman.
Absolutely. Yeah, but this is a movie that, again, like I said, has to be seen to be believed. And,
it's true.
And I'm interested. I'm so interested to have this conversation now. Again, I feel like this is the hardest I've pushed you yet this year. So let's dive right in.
There is so much to dive into.
There is. And this movie says a lot.
Yeah, it does.
It does. You know what I mean? Almost maybe too much for a question.
I do think it's too much for a question. I think there's so many like, I guess like themes or just like talking points that are like relevant, and even in today's culture, they'll probably be timeless, unfortunately. But like maybe all too thin of them to be one question on their own because there are so many.
Yeah.
That maybe we should just tackle the movie as a whole.
Yeah, let's just tackle it as a whole. So I think there are two real opposing forces about this movie.
Yeah.
And it is the religious side and the political side.
Yeah.
So let's kind of take each side first and kind of we'll talk about each side and then we'll kind of see how they merge together.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you want to start with, I guess, the lead of the movie, like Father Grandier.
Yes, let's start with
Oliver
Oliver
Reed.
Reed. Oliver Reed. I know. I told you that I did think that one of the saving graces of this movie for you that could draw you in and get you to like it is his performance.
Yeah.
So let's start there. What are your initial thoughts on Mr. Oliver Reed as Urbain Grandier?
I think Oliver Reed is really, really good in this. He definitely has some opportunities for, I guess, those monologues. Some of them are inner monologues. Some of them are told to sleeping women that he's married to. Some of them are when he's being burned alive.
Right.
But, I think as like the movie grows, like the personality of his character like becomes more and more, I don't want to say flamboyant, but bigger and bigger.
Sure.
He has to kind of stop the persecution that's occurring. So, but I think Oliver Reed does a great job at tackling Father Grandier, who's a pretty complicated, different religious, definitely priest, but like that religious, I don't know if zealot's the right figure, like definitely a different version of that than what you're used to seeing on screen.
Absolutely. One of the most fascinating things for me about Grandier is that his journey, especially his religious spiritual journey, however you want to categorize it, feels very different than a man in this particular instance. Because I feel like when you're having some sort of crisis of faith or whatever, in a movie like this, you would think that they almost go to the psychotic, where it's like they're like dissecting people, or something like that.
Well, pretty much every other religious character in this movie,
right? Exactly, and good point. And for him, it's like while you can see that what he is doing, how he is living, does not fit well within the Catholic Church for reasons X, Y, and Z. He feels like he is going on a genuine search for spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And searching for real, true meaning, which I think is a redeeming quality for him, even with some of his faults that are kind of apparent. He's a flawed man, and he tells you that throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and I almost know, is he a flawed man or is he a flawed priest? It's kind of like
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's a touchy line. Like, would he have been more committed to some of these other women he had met if he wasn't a priest? And so, maybe again, we fall into that trap that we talk about pretty much weekly when you have characters that are not, they're not angels, and I don't mean to say that because we're talking about a religious thing, but
of course.
Their characters are not like perfect, perfect examples, like perfect role model type characters. You're still going to root for them because they're the protagonists. Like that is the trap that movie making lets us fall into every time. So maybe I'm trying to look at Grandier through those rose-colored glasses. Like he would have been more committed to these other women. He wasn't just using them, but the priest said he had to kind of turn on them, and not that that wasn't good. It was bad decisions, but maybe he was forced into some of those bad decisions, or thought he was.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's that any journey is not a straight line. I guess is my response, and like so, it is very realistic to human life. It's a kind of a jagged road that does kind of take you into the right and wrong multiple times, throughout this course.
Yeah,
and I think and I do think that the pressures of the church obviously led him to perhaps repress certain things, but also not at the same time, and then it kind of forced him to burst out. And do some of these things that maybe he wouldn't do normally, just because of that repression of the church.
And I will say at one point though, I think early on I don't think confused is the right word, but I didn't know if I should take him marrying Madeline. I think her name was Madeline.
Yeah, Madeline.
If I should, if that was serious or not. You know what I mean?
Sure. Because it was more of like an experiment or something.
Experiment, or he was just using this was just him taking it to the next step of how he wants to.
Sure.
Use women or whatever, but so it took me a minute to realize there's genuineness here. He does love this woman. This isn't an act.
Well, sure, and it's fair to question it, especially because when you first meet him, he's having an affair with the daughter of the other politician in the town, whatever, and so then she obviously becomes pregnant, and it becomes this whole kind of pseudo scandal, if you will.
Right.
And in that moment, and there's a lot of great lines in that scene too, when she kind of confesses that to him. It's like, talking about their love. It's like, now it devours us. And then she like tells him, like, go to your father, tell him the truth, let him find a good man for you. They exist.
Right.
It's funny because it's like, it's like he's like, I'm not having to have anything to do with this. I can't, and it's gonna, it's gonna end up, taking him down in his mind at least. But like, he's also like, go and find a good person. They exist. There's a certain optimism in it as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, she doesn't take it that way,
no.
and the revenge angle of this all kind of comes out. But there is, you could fault him for maybe not in that moment being like, oh well, I'll let's get married or something. You know what I mean? Like, but then going to find somebody like Madeline. But I do think you're right that the connection between Grandier and Madeline is more real, and I think that there's multiple reasons for why that is. I think she is more aligned with his journey, which I think is the central crux of his character, is this journey to try to find God, or at least a connection to, if you will, and she seems more in line with what he wants to do and what he needs to do on that journey.
It also like kind of felt to me like he almost, I don't know if I read this right, in the one scenes like during the confessions where like it was almost like he feels cursed, like he has these women like everywhere kind of fawn over him.
That is true, yes.
And he almost like takes advantage of them so that they demythicize him,
right?
In their own minds.
I get that. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it is funny how women react to him.
Yeah,
and obviously we'll turn to Jeanne. To
Sister Reverend Mother Jeanne.
Yeah.
It's French.
Exactly. Sister Jeanne d'Angre. But yeah, we'll get to her obviously, but it's not just her. I mean, it's just like randos on the street, when he's doing the funeral procession in the beginning, it is like the whole town, all the women in the town are basically like, "Oh my God, I want him!" Woo!
Right, yes.
Like, I mean, nobody seems to be, holding back on that.
No.
And even that one scene you just mentioned, there was like the lady that come to confess something she couldn't even remember just because she wanted to talk to him. Yeah,
he's like, "What's your sin?" She's like, "I forgot." And he's like, "Maybe God will forgot too."
Right? Yeah. So it's hard. It could be hard to be like to feel sorry for him, because you're like, all the ladies watching, it's the worst thing in the world.
But for a priest, it kind of is, because it's temptation.
It's temptation, exactly. So there is that level to it as well that I do think you have to kind of understand for him. And if he's going to take that leap, then especially with what like he does with Madeline, it has to be for the right person.
Right.
And I think that's why he ultimately does decide to actually marry Madeline.
Yeah, like I said, eventually you do learn the genuineness of that relationship, but then that obviously starts a huge downward spiral in his life.
Yeah.
Because that does set off Sister Jeanne, which sets off a whole escapade of other things, and that's to me where the movie really kind of kicks in, because
the term you're going to use.
Sure. Because the extremities are like really start to get super heightened, but that is also through that where you start to see like what the movie's really trying to talk about.
Right. So before we shift to the political, to round out the religious, let's definitely talk about Reverend Mother Jeanne, because she does, she truly represents the sexual repression side of religion.
Sure.
Obviously, yeah. Right. Whereas Grandier is, exploring and, kind of like looking at the idea of sex and religion in a completely different way. She is living fully in repression. Now, I'm sure part of that is because of her appearance and the fact that she does have the hump. But like, I do think,
are humps bad?
Well, I mean, but maybe not sexually. She does not see herself as being sexually attractive, which is why when she has her visions of him, she doesn't. She imagines it's gone. Right. She imagines it's gone.
Yeah, and then it pops up like a little devil.
Like the nightmare. Right, like the nightmare returns. Yeah. So so I think that is obviously part of it, and because of that, it's clear that the other women, and she talks about this when Madeline comes about, possibly joining the order and all of that, talking about what the other women they're alike.
They're not all like there for the best intentions.
Right, exactly. Like they're noble women who were either too poor for dowries or they're too ugly, or something like that. And
too ugly for a husband.
Right, exactly. And so, but for them, their probable sexual options, even beyond that, were probably pretty, fine. Whereas, Reverend Mother Jeanne's probably not. So that's probably part of the reason why she probably sees herself that way. But it is that again, that religious hold, that nuns would have.
Yeah, and I think I think the movie uses that and her hump for you to kind of feel sorry for her, and kind of lull you into the trap of being like, oh man, I wish this woman had a better outlet for the things she's struggling with. But she's pretty complicated character because she kind of turns this whole world upside down.
Oh yeah,
or she gets used to do so.
Right,
but she was a kind of a willing partner for much of it.
Absolutely.
Because she ends up basically calling out Father Grandier for, I guess,
witchcraft, possession.
Yeah,
like
possession by the devil.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, so
like
how do you do an exorcism? What happened before? Yeah,
right.
Because he's the one poisoning her thoughts with these sexual dreams.
Right.
He's the one making her, have these ungodly thoughts. They aren't her. Like, and that's like kind of one of those first big themes that people, and maybe it's speaking of the time, especially like think about just witch trials in general, but
definitely.
When you can just simply make these claims about people to ruin their lives, and people are going to run with it, and you didn't need much, to prove
especially
it.
Then.
Especially then, but
but it is you bring up a great point because a lot of times these stories are women being accused of witchcraft. You don't see many movies where the men are.
Right.
Where a man is. So that is kind of another interesting angle on the devils that you don't typically see in cinema.
Right.
Is that. But it is based on a true story, so there you go. I mean, it's not like a whole cloth story. But I do think they do a good job with Reverend Mother Jeanne, in that opening act of showing just how pent up she is, to the point where you can realize, not again, in some ways sympathize, but also empathize, whatever, why she might get to that point.
Sure. But
there is a certain level of like psychosis, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, that goes into that as well. Because she talks about, Satan is ever ready to seduce us with sensual delights. She tells all the nuns who are, fawning over the notion of being with Urbain Grandier. And then when she sees him, she, practically orgasms. Yeah. Just at the sight of him.
Yeah.
So it's like she's putting on this show, which is, very tightly locked. And, they see her that way as this kind of authority figure, if you will. And then it kind of goes to show what repression can do when it finally bursts free, and like the desperation that comes with that. So when she has the opportunity to kind of accuse him, and it almost doesn't even seem like she meant to.
No, really. Her problem was it mutually aligned with the politics side, where they were trying to take over the city that he somehow was in charge of.
So this is a great. Let's shift gears. So we're up to that point now. So let's talk a little bit about the political side. So the movie has a great opening. I mean, just a bonkers opening where Louis XIII is doing this Birth of Venus play as the Venus, and you're kind of like, what is happening? And then
I'm like, what is Rob making me watch?
Right. And then Cardinal Richelieu is also kind of watching this thing kind of bored. As, like, everybody is like kind of like fawning over this. And it kind of goes to show, I think, that relationship between the Catholic Church and the monarchy at that point. Because obviously in that scene is when the Cardinal takes the opportunity to put the bug in Louis's ear about the Protestants and needing to clear them out, essentially, push them from the land.
Very, very religious and
so there is a bit of religion in that, but then you on the flip of that, we go back to Grandier in Loudon, because this is kind of like a safe city in a way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Where it's like Protestants and Catholics coexist. They have no issues with each other.
Living inside this walled-in city.
Right.
It has to be a little fictional there. The city looked like it was from the future. I loved it. I loved it visually.
It was, and there's a lot of great visuals in this movie. I'm sure we will get to that, but as far as like the themes of it's like a sanctuary city. You know,
right.
They talk about those new terms now, where these people can kind of come, live, and not worry about, persecution.
But they're loyal to the king, so it shouldn't matter.
But they are, right, exactly, which is
not true,
right,
but it should.
Right, which is what Grandier says, you know, when they come to finally, like, tear down the walls. Which, you know, going to your point, the governor had passed away.
Yeah.
And Grandier now has this document that says that, you know, he is in charge until an election can take place.
Right.
Which firmly puts him between the monarchy and the Catholic Church and the city of Loudon.
Yep.
Which is why the target is painted on his back.
Right. Now they have to take him down.
Right. So you enter Baron de Laubardemont.
Perfectly pronounced.
Laubardemont.
I just wrote Baron down. I'm saying curly-haired Baron.
Laubardemont. I'm not doing that at all. But anyway, so yeah, he becomes kind of the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
If you will, because he's the one who takes on the mantle of bringing down Grandier to be able to ultimately bring down the walls of Loudon.
Wow, perfectly said. That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
That was beautiful, man.
Yeah, and so he ends up teaming with Sister Jeanne or Jeanne,
right?
Where they end up doing this getting to this point where they do a public exorcism of her, since she is possessed by the devils that either Grandier is or put in her. Mm-hmm. You know, however, you know, it was all made up. So it's like, however you want to frame it, it's whatever. And, you know, they don't get what they want from her necessarily until they beat her to get, you know, basically beat and torture her to start saying what they want her to say.
Yeah.
And so then as soon as she does, like, they're able to go and run with that.
Right.
But, you know, we're really like, so that, you know, a lot of things to kind of touch on when you're talking about the bigger themes, but like that first exorcism with Sister Grandier is like open to the public, right? It's a spectacle.
It's a spectacle.
This isn't like we're here to help her, you know. And then when that doesn't go well, like they're going to execute her, or I'm getting a little foggy about how it's going. But then all the other nuns like went out to protect her.
Oh, they were doing an enema. Because they were trying to flush the demon from her body.
Okay. I was getting foggy. I can't remember what was happening.
Yeah.
And then but then that leads to like the next scene or two, like then they were going to execute all the nuns for protecting her,
right?
Because they must be possessed by the devil if they were helping the devil,
right?
So it's like it's like you're a witch. So it just started like
I'm not a witch.
Yeah. And then when their lives get saved. Now all these nuns have this like new lease on life,
right?
Or at least how I took it. And they go on these giant crazy
orgy,
sure. Right. Escapades, orgy, and the movie just kind of goes off the walls for a second.
Right. Well, and the other part of it too is, you know, they bring before the exorcism.
Fill in the gaps there, Rob. Sorry.
Right. No. That's fine. So, you know, I think. There's a lot of interesting things here. So before we
a lot of stuff I want to circle back.
Right. We'll circle back. Let's circle back before we get to that point. Also, because I think, you know, they bring in a character that I think really changes the complexion of this movie in such an amazing way, and that is the Inquisitor Father Pierre Barret, who is the professional witch hunter, quote unquote.
Hate him. I hate him.
Right, and he like his character. But it's an amazing performance for me, like because he really plays this character of this kind of performative zealot so well.
It kind of like he gave off really gigantic Clockwork Orange vibes to me.
Sure,
like just the long hair blonde guy with glasses who's an absolute psycho.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I absolutely can agree with that, and it's. I think once he hits the celluloid, and he is in this movie, like, I think you're right. It's really when the movie does, as you said earlier, kick in, you know, and kind of reach the craziness that I kind of forewarned you about.
Yeah. Well, Father Grandier has no chance at this point. Like, once Barlet is like involved, he's screwed, because this guy's not going to lose, basically.
Well, right, because he's a showman. Like, that's really what it is he's a showman.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's there to perform a duty that's, to essentially, you know, seal the deal, seal the guilt, if you will, of Grandier.
He's not there to help anybody. He's not there to help a possessed Reverend Mother. He's not there to help, or not possess, but to exorcise. He's not there to exorcise Sister Reverend Mother Jeanne, because she's not actually possessed, because she's lying. We know she's lying. The other nuns who he's trying to help, they're not actually possessed, because they never did anything. All they tried to do was save her.
Yeah.
So everything he's doing that he's refusing to not do is a complete lie.
Right.
And he knows it's a complete lie.
Right. It's a performance.
Or potentially.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah, he might believe
it to a certain degree.
He might be enough of a zealot where he believes it.
Right. I do think part of it is he believes in himself more than he believes in his own religion. He believes in his own hype, if you will.
Sure.
But I do think that there is a bit of performance in it as well. But it, like you said earlier, this all kind of devolves once. You know, they have to perform an examination on Reverend Mother Jeanne to find out if she's a virgin, which they find out she's not, which is, probably from heavy masturbating, is my guess.
Or they took advantage of her. I couldn't, because she was covered in blood when they were testing her.
Well, I mean, that's because it's a very invasive.
Sure.
But I mean, that's fair as well. Then, like you said, there's that kind of whole weird enema angle of it, where they're going to, cleanse her, if you will. But all of that leads to her, saying Grandier's name, which she had not up to that point.
Right.
And once the Baron heard that name, it was good to go.
Right.
That was it. It was. They were.
She started with a white lie, probably more than a white lie.
Right.
But she did not know that her white lie was corresponding with these other people that were going to want to take Grandier down. So she became a victim of circumstance.
She really did, but went with it.
Yeah, right. Well, she went with it until, and then she tried to take it back, because she was like, oh, wow, I've been way over my head, because these people are insane.
Sure.
And they wouldn't let her. When she said, I was lying, no, that's the devil is telling you to say you were lying.
Right.
So, at that point, nothing she could do was going to get her out of it.
Yeah. No, that's true. Because it was always going to be this way, They
weren't going to lose.
Right, they weren't going to lose, exactly. And so, up to this point, we've like I said, the craziness is kind of ensuing. And I guess for me, as a question to you, as this movie progresses and it kind of gets crazier and crazier, was there kind of a point early in the movie, and you're like, this isn't so bad?
Sure.
And then it kind of hits you.
Yeah. I think early on you're like, okay, there's a priest who likes to do it. Sure, that's going to be triggering to maybe some religious people and stuff. But, in a lot of religions that aren't Catholic, like Christian priests are allowed to have families and, have relationships. So, it's not really all that crazy. It's more of the times. That's why it's a period piece. So I'm like, I don't know if this movie's going to live up to that crazy hype. But once you get to the nun orgies, then I was like, okay, no, this is different. This is the movie that Robbie said. Yeah, this is living up to that hype for sure.
Well, and it's great too, because it's such a chaotic scene. We're talking about the orgy scene, where it's like half orgy, still half exorcism, because it seems like Barret is trying to figure out some kind of a way to exorcise these women, and who are now all free of their nunnery frocks. They're they're not wearing their habits anymore. Yeah. They're just running around naked, and then the king shows up, disguised, but he shows up and offers them a tool. The blood of Christ, a vial of the blood of Christ that's supposed to cure them all.
Yeah.
And then
Barley uses it.
And like one of them, it was Jeanne. Was it
Jeanne?
Jeanne
And some others.
like pretend, like, oh yes, I'm
this is the way out.
Now.
This is the way out.
This is the way out. And then the king reveals that there's literally nothing in the box, which just goes to show, like, he's like, "What sort of trick are you playing on us?" And it's like, "What sort of trick are you playing on us?" Right. So like the king knows this is all like bull,
right?
Which is I think like the funniest part of this whole like politics versus religion thing, where like the king knows that this is all a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
And he
doesn't believe it for a second.
He doesn't believe it for a second. And he's just playing along with it because he knows the ends justify whatever means, he needs.
Right. And I think a lot of the people in the stands don't, like, they're laughing at a lot of the stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the people that are watching it in mass, because it, like I said, it was public exorcism or whatever, but they are, like, they're chuckling. Like, they're finding humor in all this, like, these, like, when they're explaining their dreams of washing his feet with my hair because I'm possessed by the devils, making me wash his, they're like, this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like, but it's funny, like, none of that matters. Like, oh, you're defending the nun? Then you're possessed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing you could do to stop being targeted.
On the political side, there are dissenters, and multiple times in this movie. Like when there's the initial public exorcism with just Reverend Mother Jeanne, there's like two dissenters, and and the Baron asks who they are.
Yeah.
And hold on, what's the father's name? Louis Trinquant, the mother of the father of the woman who Grandier got pregnant.
Yeah.
He says who they are. Like, one of them owns like the largest inn, and the other one is a baker.
Bakery,
And he's like, oh well, maybe we're gonna take controlling interest, whatever. So clearly, whatever dissenters were going to pop up, they were fully willing to take care of, and they come around multiple times in different scenes because of that. And it kind of goes to show that political stranglehold that the monarchy is trying to exact on Loudon. But at this moment is when Grandier finally returns.
Yeah.
Like, because he had gone on this trip, I think, to see the king.
Yeah.
And then, but didn't, because the king wasn't there. Or,
yeah. Or this is the new city he's at? I was a little confused. Like, that he just happened to go to... Were these two different cities? I couldn't tell.
Maybe they were. No, because this was all in Loudon.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, because he comes...
Because
he was away from Loudon, and then he comes back. Yeah, okay. So he returns. And
he returns in the middle of the orgy.
Right, exactly. And that's when he kind of makes his grand statement. You've turned you've turned the house of God into a circus.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all the parishioners are now your clowns. And that was kind of the point. Is they were kind of going back to that spectacle angle of it, which it's funny because in this. You see it as something that's out of the ordinary, but for me, as somebody who it does not subscribe to organized religion, I do think that there is a lot of that baked in the cake for a lot of organized religions.
Mm-hmm.
The spectacle angle of it. It is a commonly used tool, but again, like this different time, different place.
Sure.
You kind of maybe out of the ordinary, but you obviously realize what's coming for Grandier at this point, because now they have what they need to arrest him.
I would say for a second I was hoping he was going to be able to talk himself out of it, he's pretty quickly arrested.
Yeah.
And again, like, people are defending him, people are saying this is a hoax, there's nothing here, this isn't real, and then those people get arrested for saying that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and then the nuns are threatened if they recant. Of any of the stuff that they've written. I mean, there's all kinds of there's all kinds of threats, because at this point everything is sealed. The fate is sealed. At this particular moment that Grandier is probably screwed, because that is the outcome that they want.
Right.
And they've done everything they can while he's gone to secure his guilt.
Yep.
So basically, by the time he walks back in, they almost don't even need a trial, which, I mean, the Baron basically tells him, even comes in, it's like, you're for execution. It's like, I haven't even put on trial. It's like, fine, for your trial. Because he knows it doesn't even matter at this point.
And the funny thing is, like, everything that they built up with the Grandier character as what his character flaws are, none of those are the reasons why he's actually being executed. They're the pretend reasons.
Of course.
The real reasons are they want control of the city to tear down the walls so
Right.
that they can, just have power in the South. Like, he's just a tool that they're eliminating. He's just something that's in the way.
Yeah.
So I think it's just funny that you have all these flaws, but these aren't really what's going to take you down in life. It's just one other person's whim.
Yeah. So let's segue a little bit, because before we kind of move on, obviously, to the climax of the movie, let's talk a little bit about Grandier and his overall, the ideals that he holds that obviously get him in trouble the most, but also like the prescience in some of this stuff. I think that's something that I think is really interesting, every time I watch this movie, I like it more. I will admit, and it's just, but it never ceases to amaze me how, like I said, I use the word prescient. Some of this stuff is and still relevant. I think about his original speech after he chased away the Baron who was trying to tear down the walls and all that. And this is a really great scene too, because I love the intercuts back and forth between Cardinal Richelieu and Grandier when he's giving this speech. And he talks about every time there's a so-called nationalist revival, it means one thing: somebody is trying to seize control of the entire country. When a man is intent on power, as Richelieu is, he can justify his actions with absurdities.
Right.
Which is exactly what happens for the rest of the movie, obviously, because the exorcisms are nothing but absurdities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it also hits really close to home.
Well, absolutely. That's one thing I'll say about the themes of this movie, why I think they're so strong, is I do think, I think religion and politics, we do see these themes heightened. Yeah. But I kind of as I kind of was just wrote a note for myself, I think the church is just a great metaphor for humanity's darker tendencies.
Sure.
Because it should be the light. Yeah. But but obviously we've which would make it a great metaphor for the dark. But these are things that this is human nature. It doesn't have to be the church necessarily. It doesn't have to be politics necessarily. You'll see this. If you work for a school, the teacher who's trying to get up to be the next assistant principal, or you'll see it everywhere. This is literally human nature, and it's just you can magnify it with some of these metaphors, and they're not that they're not prescient in those arenas either. They are, but that's what I think. I think the movie is able to speak so much loudly because it's turning the volume up on, like I said, on human nature. Because the movie, it is talking about so many things. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is this, the title of the movie, The Devils. Mm-hmm. I found the title to be really interesting because the devil's not really in this movie. Sure. And there's not one central bad guy. Right. So how do you take it? When they talk about the devils, is it the metaphorical ones?
I think it's the metaphorical ones. I think it's
or is it the people who are pretending to be good?
I think it's more on the political side. Yeah. Who are the true devils? Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Where it's they spend the whole movie kind of fabricating this idea of the devil in various ways. You know what I mean? And through these possessions and exorcisms and blah blah blah. But the real devils are the men behind him. Yeah. Behind them. Yeah. And I think that is and I think the thing that makes it so impactful is it's not, some of these devils are considered to be religious men. Like Cardinal Richelieu. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's also something that this movie does really well, is it tackles the idea, like I kind of mentioned earlier with Grandier, about the idea of faith and what that means and the purity of it, and who's just using it as a tool for power, and who's searching for true meaning. And for me, again, this is for me personally, I find, most organized religions to be grounded in a search for power more than a search for spirituality. So I think that's where I kind of connect with Grandier in this movie so much, is that while he is tethered to a world based on an organized religion, being part of the church, the Catholic Church, he is on a search for something more pure, something more spiritual, outside of just religious dogma. Yeah. So I think that for me is why I think the devils means the men that are using this religion for their own power.
Yeah. And the devils might not, they don't have red horns and a big spiky tail.
Right.
They're not walking around with a pitchfork.
Exactly.
They're right there in front of you. And it's scary. I think one of the scariest things that this movie kind of displays is how you could literally ruin somebody's life just by saying words.
Sure.
No proof is needed.
Well, and especially when there's a motivation behind it from a higher power, like again the government. Like
right.
when the monarchy is looking to get rid of you,
they will.
They will. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really to the point, which is what he kind of rails about, or Grandier rails about giving up the freedom, with when the monarchy is trying to come and take away what they have.
And gaining power through mass hysteria.
Right.
Is something that's really, I think, prescient in this movie, and now with with the way we're fed news is just to kind of keep everybody on edge,
right.
Almost. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's a plague going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's another great way to kind of like capitalize on that, the shock doctrine, if you will, where this plague is going on. And in that time, everybody's looking for meaning, whether it be religious or otherwise. And it's easy for, it was easy for the Catholic Church or whatever to come in and kind of just, like you said, kind of instill this hysteria that kind of whipped everybody up, which ultimately led them to turn against Grandier, who was literally looking out for them,
right.
Like trying to keep their autonomy from the Catholic Church and the monarchy.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they got the short end of the stick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Should have listened.
Yeah. It's this. I think it's just really interesting how they put on screen. When you have this mindset that was coming from the Baron and Father Barlet of like, you can only be right if you do exactly what we say, and anything you don't, anytime you disagree with us, proves your guilt.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like you put these people in like in an absolute like no-win situation, and it's so hard to tell, like, kind of like we were mentioning earlier, like do they know that they're just being evil and just forcing these people to say what they want them to say, or do they believe it? And which one's more scary?
I mean, that's true. No, I mean, I think that's absolutely true. I think, and especially when you get into the realm of, religion, as, whether you're talking about Barret or if you're talking about Richelieu or whatever, there's probably a little bit of both, like actual belief. But I do think that, men are men and they have the tendency to buy into themselves too much, especially when you start gaining power. Yeah. So somebody like a Cardinal Richelieu, who literally has the ear of the king, they start seeing themselves as a level of God, or at the very least as an appendage of God,
sure.
Which puts them at a higher level.
Yeah.
And I think that's when things start getting really murky. Yeah. When you're and like I said, that, and unfortunately, I do think it is kind of an inherent part of organized religion, which is why I don't typically subscribe to it.
Yeah, and when you think of those characters too, I think like when I'm thinking about Reverend Mother Jeanne and Father Barlet, you really think about like their motives,
right?
Like, and then I think about like the ability or inability of people like to accept their own faults. Like sometimes people would rather be wrong,
right,
but proven right,
right.
Like I said, either whether it be through torture or by whatever means. They'd rather be right in the most dirty way than admit they made a mistake.
Sure,
they've gone too far.
Yeah,
and I guess it's there's part of me that think that's what that Father Barlet was in that trap. Like they're not saying what we want them to say, so we have to torture them more and more and more. And it's like got to the point where it was absolutely batshit crazy, out of control. And he was still trying to find a way to I can still save this. I can still get them to do the right, the thing that I want them to do.
Yeah.
All because he just doesn't want to admit he was wrong. Like he has multiple people saying we were lying. This has gone too far, and refusing to believe that.
And that's fair, but also the other part of that too, and this is kind of the other part that I think is an integral kind of reason why he wouldn't also agree to that, is not only for his own personal sake that he couldn't be wrong, but for his professional sake he couldn't be wrong. You know what I mean? Like he can't lose credibility in that way. So when there's a profit motive behind it, you're going to lie more. You're going to lean into the lie, and I think that's definitely part of it for Barre.
And I agree. And I think if you kind of think about this as like to speaking to the real world, like as much as Father Barlet may believe exactly what you just said, and I 100% think he does, like it's not the end of the world. If like, hey, you were tricked, they were lying a little bit, you're like, oh, dang it, they got me. Well, the next one I'll cure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But like I said, these people, like when you're just possessed with power and being right and probably spoiled, in that way, and everybody kisses your butt all the time, that you don't think you can be wrong, and so you refuse to believe you can be wrong, and then you've turned into an absolute a-hole.
Yeah, which is I think one of the more compelling elements of Grandier is he does typically through the course of this movie accept his faults.
Exactly.
He says he's
admits
vain.
his wrong.
He says he's wrong. He has lust. He has all of these things, but it's like he realizes the imperfections of it are more of part of his journey, as to, like I said, trying to find God, whatever that means to him. You know what I mean? And I think that's what allows him, like through the especially the latter part of the movie, as the trial happens and he is obviously found guilty, and it's a fixed trial, as we already said. Like everybody knew that it was going to happen, but he's able to really kind of incisively cut through the crap. Like I think when he talks about, he says, you have totally perverted Christ's own teachings. This new doctrine, Labordamont's new doctrine, Barré's new doctrine, especially invented for this occasion, is the work of men who are not concerned with fact or with law or with theology, but a political experiment to show how the will of one man can be pushed in destroying not only one man or one city, but one nation. Everybody needs to remember that. But but it's but he's kind of able to cut through with stuff like that, because I do think there is that genuine nature to him that he really kind of does hold on to through the whole movie.
Yeah, and, foolish, gullible me kept thinking he was going to get away out of this.
Sure.
That, like, the guy who's making sense and speaking with reason is going to win.
Right.
But he doesn't.
No.
He ends up
being burned.
And then, like, they were supposed to, like, not actually burn him to death, but, like, strangle him or break his neck or something.
Yeah.
And then they don't even let him do that.
Yeah.
He literally gets just
it's a brutal scene. It's a brutal scene when they burn Grandier. But, it's also interesting how it affects the people around him. Because like you kind of said earlier, with Barré, like he really up to the minute that he is burned. Like, I mean, he's the one who sets the fire. Like, he is all board with this. He believes everything he's saying. And then you have Mignon, the other priest, who was friends with Grandier at one point in the movie. And then
he never condoned his lifestyle, but they were
friendly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then through the second half, I mean, he's the one who took the first who heard the confession, or not the confession, the accusation.
Sure, you're right.
So he's the one who first heard the accusation from Jeanne.
Yeah.
So like there's that whole angle to it. But through the last act, like up to the point where he's going to be burned, Mignon keeps going at him like, confess, confess, confess. And he's like, he even says like, do you believe in your conscience that a man should confess to crimes that he did not commit just to end his pain?
Right.
Like they keep trying to get him to confess. And
there's nothing to confess. They want him to lie.
Right, exactly. And for Mignon, you can tell that that's kind of like eating at him. It feels like he's trying to, like, it's his own attempt to convince himself that he's right.
That he's not getting a man executed based off his own desire for power.
Right, which you do find out after he's burned, that he goes insane.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, we killed an innocent man. We killed an innocent man. So like he, even in the end, after the deed is done, he does not believe what he did.
Right.
Or that they did the right thing.
Didn't stop him from doing it.
Didn't stop him from doing it. But probably not that he could have stopped it. But but still, there's that whole thing. But and kind of interweaving the politics of it, because the politics come back around again at this point. Because go ahead.
I was gonna say, as soon as he's murdered, I'll use the word murdered. Like the second he's dead,
right?
Explosions and the walls are being taken down.
Right. Well, absolutely.
Which just proves like this was for that was the reason this happened.
Of course, yes.
Not for anything else. It was for these walls to come down.
Right. And even an added layer to that, before he's burned, You think of the Baron in that scene when he comes in again is trying to get him to confess. He actually tells him why he wants him to confess, because they want to use him as a tool,
right?
To expand the power of the church. So again, this at this point we start out the movie with the religious and the political, and by the end they're the same thing, you know. And I think that's kind of like such an interesting part of this movie where they kind of come to a point. And then it breaks right through the walls at the end, like you said, because the walls come down and then Loudon falls.
Yeah, it's one of those bad endings.
Right.
Not a bad ending, but a bad ending, and that it was bad for Grandier.
Right. It was bad for Grandier, but I think
everybody that lived there essentially.
Well, absolutely. But was it okay? We didn't ask a question at the beginning of this, so I'm going to hit you with one right now. Even though he was burned, did Grandier fail in his weakness and need?
In his weakness and need. Define to me how you define his weakness and need.
No, you don't. What do you think? No, that's what I'm asking you. No.
Okay.
As far as his spiritual journey and whatnot, you know what I mean? And finding, because he confesses that he's trying to, again, kind of like find a connection with God, and all of that. Like, do you think because he was able to go through this process, keep his composure through the whole thing, never false confess, never do anything like that.
Right.
Like,
I think when they try to publicly humiliate him by like shaving his head and cutting his hair and trying to make him ugly,
right?
Because so much of his persona, I think, was wrapped up in his beauty.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. His ability to stand up in those situations and not cower down. No, I think that is the relationship with like truth.
Right.
And like holistic and like not just taking the easy way out, like which maybe falling into temptation and the love could have been viewed as for him. Like he, maybe it was pride was one of his weaknesses in regards to how the church would define him, or his inability to, I guess, disdain from lust or whatever. But I think he was successful. I think I hope in those last moments he found.
So it wasn't necessarily an unhappy ending.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm
getting burned at the end doesn't necessarily mean it's an unhappy ending.
Leave me with butterflies in my stomach. I'll tell you that much. But so maybe it's better for him than for me. But I definitely think if he wasn't on a path to heaven before, he did as much as he can to redeem himself.
Yeah.
I think in how he would view God's eyes, for sure. So.
Well, and again, that's the kind of spectacle of it, because that's the the other angle of it, and I do think obviously I appreciated. So the one thing that you could possibly say about the ending of this movie, and I'll see how you feel about it, is that not many people really got any of their any comeuppance.
Yeah,
if you will, like Mignon, he goes insane, because because of what he
started the game of telephone,
right? But Baron. Nothing, obviously the king.
They all
nothing,
get what they want.
Richelieu, right? They all get what they want. They tear the walls down. You think about the Lincourts, who that's crazy. They're watching from the balcony, and the father is like, "Oh, it's not every day baby sees daddy burned to death." You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty messed up stuff. I guess the closest might be Jeanne.
Yeah,
because she's basically just going to be left there.
Yeah, she's like, "What do I do now?" Kind of thing.
Nothing.
You'll be forgotten and nothing. You'll turn it back into nothing soon.
Right.
Like that's her gift.
Right. Like she thinks that she's going to go places because of this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. Just to circle back to when they were the baby watching Grandier be burned, and they were talking about not every day you get to see your mother revenged. So however holy, and then his mother, I can't remember her name, but just smiling and watching.
Philippe. I think her name is Philippe.
Just watching the whole thing and smiling. It's like all of this for revenge. Like you can just and is it worth it? Like I mean, like even in like just society in general, like so much is about like how you're viewed and revenge and how treat me right, and everything's about your own personal like.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, how you if your pride was hurt, if you're in, and it's not about one person. Like that's not how society is supposed to function.
Right.
Not that again, like he didn't treat her well.
Right.
That's obvious. But like his crime isn't being burned at a stake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if the punishment fits the crime, but like they also I don't think see the ripples of like, yeah, you may have got in your eyes this revenge on this man who took advantage of your daughter and now she's a mother and to a bastard son or whatever. They frame it as worst you can, but you've screwed over this whole town. You've got this man's burned alive. This town's going to be destroyed. All the Protestants that live there are going to now be murdered. It's like, what? So what? At what cost? At what ends?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree, and that's why he from the stake he literally yells, "Don't look at me. Look at your city. Your city is destroyed. Your freedom has been destroyed. Also, fight them all or become their slaves."
Yeah.
So even in his dying breath, Grandier is trying to warn these people about what is getting ready to happen, but they're so wrapped up in the spectacle, so wrapped up in the hysteria that they just it's like a sickness almost.
Yeah, and I almost don't think that's 100% fair to the citizens of the town because when you speak up, what happens? Like you get tied up into the same.
It's true.
I mean, shoot, look in real life when people stand up to ICE, you could get shot in the face.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much the same thing that these townsfolk were facing.
Yeah.
As soon as they spoke up to try to protect Grandier because they all knew this is a sham.
Yeah.
They were tortured. And remember the two guys at the end of the scene where Grandier is arrested. I can't remember if they were the baker or exactly character or not, but like the next scene over, like they've you could see that their skin is like green. They're like super pale. Like they've taken away their statements. They no longer believe that, which obviously they were tortured, to near death to get them to say that.
Right.
But yeah, so it's hard for me to blame the people too of the South because they're being intimidated just as much as Grandier is.
Sure. No, I can agree with that. And the movie ends on such a haunting scene. Or like a frame, if you will, because it's really Madeline climbing over the rubble of the wall, leaving the city. Like it's so quiet. Like, because at that point, obviously, the craziness had been going for a bit. So it's like when it finally kind of ends and it's quiet, and she just climbs over the wall and walks down the road, like this kind of endless road up to whatever the future may be.
Yeah,
like it feels like oddly peaceful and been very haunting all at the same time.
Right, I agree. I think it's a fitting ending.
Yeah.
She's able to. I mean, in some ways, she is escaping the madness, but the madness is everywhere.
Right.
So there's really nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But at least she's not there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time. We've really talked a lot about this movie, and this is number 3 for me. 3 in a row movies that I have brought to you that's really meant to push the limits of your viewing tastes, if you will. I brought you a movie that is considered to be by many one of the most controversial films ever made. Now, there's some different reasons why that is. Some of it's the religious elements of it. Obviously when it was made, blasphemy and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely, it's not just like violence. But I think this movie is incredible. As I said, I love it even more every time I watch it. But that is not why we're here. We are here, Ray, because I have got to know, did you like The Devils and all of its craziness, and would you recommend it to somebody else?
Whew, that is not an easy question to answer. I think for the sake of the podcast, I'm not going to try and go down the middle. So I'm going to say that I didn't like the movie, but I have a hard time saying that. I have a hard time saying that. Yeah, I have a hard time saying that. I will say of all the movies I don't like, I like this one the most. Does that make any sense?
So it's better than Pink Flamingos.
Yeah, way better. Like I said, I'm on the borderline of liking this movie. I think if I was going to be like hypercritical, I would say, because this movie is provocative for sure.
Right.
But I do believe that it's provocative with relevance. Like it is just saying something. It's not. And it's not as overt as maybe like Pink Flamingos. Like, like what is Pink Flamingos really trying to say? May take some digging for you to find out. What this movie's trying to say. And I like a lot of what it's saying.
Yeah.
I think maybe like the last half hour of the movie I enjoyed a lot more than like the first like setup to it all potentially.
Okay.
But I guess at the end of the day, like it's the I don't want to sound like an old man, and
God!
but and just like maybe
too many boobs.
No, well, I would say maybe it's a bit excessive at parts for me. You know what I mean? So like, I wonder if he could have told this story in a slightly with a little bit more restraint. If I would have related to me, because I like the themes. I like the theme. I like the themes. I think the themes are there, but like there's so much absurdity around them at times that is like that I think maybe I would appreciate more upon a rewatch, knowing going in, but maybe on the initial watch I was like, but when you see it all together, it's
so Oliver Reed, Vanessa Redgrave performances weren't enough to pull you over the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Oliver Reed. I thought Vanessa Redgrave was fine. Yeah, but I just don't like her. So it's hard. I don't like Reverend Mother Jeanne. So it's hard for me to be like, that was I don't know. It's just she's just such a witch. So
well, they didn't burn her.
No. So all right. But do you think that's fair? Were you expecting this, or what do you think?
What are you expecting you not to like?
Yeah. Upon your rewatch, we're coming into this, we watched.
I actually thought there was a possibility you would. I thought I thought there was another. I was
close. I was really close.
I feel that. I feel it on you.
I think if you listen to this podcast, you could tell there was lots of parts of this movie I did and like to think about at least.
Right. Well, that's why I was like on the fence going through this. I'm like, I think you might end up liking this one again. So, but you didn't, and that's fine. Again, this was a movie that, like I said, I was pushing your boundaries. I love the Devils.
I like being exposed to it though.
Like I said, it's an interesting movie for me. It's a movie that has its own very unique voice.
Yeah.
It's not afraid to be what it is. I mean, do you know what year Monty Python and the Holy Grail came out?
I want to say 75.
I was
going to say 76.
So this was in 71. So
you can tell it took some inspiration from here.
Definitely did. I was going to say, because they literally bring out your dead in
some of the sound effects. That's why I get. That was another part of the movie too. Like I'm like, man, they deal with some things in a heavy way, but also very light at the same time. And sometimes maybe it felt unbalanced to me in some ways.
Oh, interesting.
Because it did have some Monty Python vibes at times. And maybe that's because we've seen Monty Python thousands of times.
Sure.
That maybe that did ruin some moments for me. Maybe I thought like, hey, when they're saying bring out your dead, like it was speaking to one thing when they made it, but in my brain, it's a punchline of a joke now.
I get that.
You know what I mean? I don't know if that influenced me at all.
I can understand that. I do think the absurdity was kind of the point at times.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think that's what Ken Russell was really trying to do with this whole story, was really kind of encapsulate the absurdity of the Catholic Church and monarchy and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, for me, The Devils gets better every time I watch it. Well, Ray, I'm sorry that you didn't like The Devils. It was close, though.
It was close.
It was close. But before we go, I got to know, what else are you watching, and would you recommend to somebody else?
Yeah, something I definitely do like is, I think, season 5 of Invincible.
I'm working my way through that.
That I really enjoy. I've gotten past all the things that they get made fun of online for, like the animation is a little cheap at times. They do a lot of stuff where like they're talking in head so they don't have to animate the mouse moving and that kind of stuff. But I like the story, and I think it kind of moves forward in a good way. And I really am intrigued by the ending. I was kind of thinking like, this is like a big battle with the Viltrumites. Like after this, I don't know if there's going to be much story to tell, but like the way they leave it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really smart, really fun. So I'm really looking forward to season 6. Like I'm like, do not stop this show yet. Keep it moving.
That's interesting, because I was kind of wondering if it was getting to a point where it needed to wrap up.
There's a new twist on it, I think, and there's some other new developments with the characters that I think are keeping it fresh enough.
Okay.
For sure.
That definitely excites me.
But unfortunately, like this is just a weird time of year where I am in the middle of 10 other shows right now. So I haven't got to a lot of movies, because every night I'm like, there's a new episode of this new show I'm watching. Right. So I haven't really watched anything else or finished anything. I've watched a lot of stuff. I haven't finished anything else. So let me pass it back to you, Rob. What have you been watching?
I got some stuff. I've got some interesting stuff. I've got a movie that I have discovered, I guess. Andrea saw it because Florence Welsh from Florence and the Machine recently did a Criterion Closet video. It may have been within the last year. And she picked a bunch of interesting stuff, and she had watched it. And a movie that she picked was a 1942 romantic screwball comedy called I Married a Witch.
I Married an Axe Murderer.
I do love that movie, but no, it's not that.
I
Married a Witch from 1942 with Veronica Lake and Frederick March. We ended up watching it. It was on Criterion Channel. It was a lot of fun.
Is it like the prerequisite to Bewitched? Did they like steal some stuff from that?
Kind of. It's about, so Veronica Lake plays a witch who was burned at the stake with her father, who's also a witch.
My God.
And before they die, they basically curse the line of the man, the preacher who's like burning them, and it's
as one
does, and it kind of goes through the line, and they end up coming back like 200-300 years later, or 200 years later, whatever it is, and when they come back to life, kind of a la Hocus Pocus, she ends up kind of falling in love with the guy, like the descendant of the guy. So it's pretty funny. It's like, again, it's kind of screwball comedy. Like
there's a little Hocus Pocus in there too.
Yeah, it's super kind of low stakes, but it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of great visual effects. That's one thing about this movie that I found super interesting. There's a lot of really good visual effects in this movie. It's René Clair, who was like a French director who was working in the States at the time, but he did some really interesting stuff. Another thing that I watched that I really liked was Dust Bunny.
Dust Bunny
with Mads Mikkelsen.
Okay.
So it's funny. It's so he plays a hitman who lives in this building, and this little girl has this dust bunny that like she believes is under her bed, and it's this monster that eats people. It eats her parents.
Oh, darn.
And she's ended up like alone. So she goes to him to hire him to kill the monster under her bed. And it kind of builds off of that, and it's great because I almost described it as if Guillermo del Toro had directed Leon the Professional.
Okay.
Because the world is super whimsical, and the way that it looks is like super interesting. It's super colorful and weird, and intriguing. But he's a hitman too, so there's like a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
We're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro next week.
That's true, and so it's super fun. It's a great movie. David Dastmalchian is in it. Sigourney Weaver is in it. She's everywhere, I feel like, and she plays the character she always plays. On? It was on HBO Max.
Oh, is it?
So
okay.
I definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those movies that keeps you guessing, like what's going on.
Yeah.
A show that I finished was Big Mistakes. With
what was the name of the show though?
Well, I mean, I make mistakes all the time, but no, with
a big mistake
Dan
watching
Levy.
it.
Oh no! In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was
awesome.
Definitely not a mistake to watch this. It was the new show that was created by Dan Levy.
Okay.
And it's super fun. It's about a brother sister who kind of have a weird relationship. He's a priest or a preacher, and she's a screw up. And they end up kind of getting caught up in this kind of mob game or mob situation, and it's really a lot of fun, and the chemistry between Dan Levy and Taylor Ortega, who plays his sister, is just phenomenal.
Really?
Like it is some of the best chemistry I've seen on TV, especially for like siblings and like sibling dysfunction and stuff like that. It's some of the best I've ever seen.
Well, that's awesome.
And the story's pretty good too, where it kind of layers onto itself and builds into what ends up it's going to be a pretty compelling second season, I think. But Laurie Metcalf is also in it, played Aunt Jackie on Roseanne.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a lot of fun. This is probably one of her best like contemporary roles. Yeah, contemporary roles. So I highly recommend. It's on Netflix. Everybody should check that out. Another thing that I watched is the documentary about the band. Or it's called Freak Scene. So for all you rock and roll fans out there, indie rock fans, it's about Dinosaur Jr., the band Dinosaur Jr. It's really great. I've been wanting to watch it for a while. It came out in like 2020, 2021, and I hadn't had a chance to see it, and I finally got around to watch that. It's pretty straightforward, but if you're a fan of the band, I think you'd really kind of it's a well-made doc. It's about
I love docs.
And they had a lot of dysfunction like in their early years. The original lineup ended up like disbanding within like 5 years.
Yeah.
But then they all got back together in the mid 2000s and it like kind of just taken back off again. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of great talking heads from other big bands from the time and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. And the last thing that I did is I finished The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins.
Oh yes.
Which it's not a perfect show.
Yeah.
And in fact, I feel like it's a show that the first season is fine, but the second season is going to be phenomenal.
When they really find their footing.
Right. Because I think they kind of got everybody where they need to be, where they've been wanting to get them, like all season, for when the meat of the story can really take hold. But I think the thing that just really kind of blows me away about the show is the chemistry between Tracy Morgan and Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, because that's like the is that going to work?
Like, it does. It totally works, and it's super fun. And like I think, the way that Daniel Radcliffe plays his character Arthur Tobin is like kind of this, he was like a hit director, kind of like a hip director who has like a really bad moment and ends up like his career goes down the tubes.
Yeah.
Whereas Tracy Morgan is an ex-football player who his like career went down the tubes because he was caught gambling, and it was so they play off of each other really, really well. They kind of have the straight man, goofball kind of character. But I will say the other great thing about Tracy Morgan too in this is he's not just playing his character from 30 Rock.
Right.
Which I think, I was a little afraid of going in. I'm like, is this just going to be him again?
He doesn't have the most range in the world.
Right. So I think there are elements of it, for sure. But like, I think that's just because it's Tracy Morgan.
Yeah,
it's him. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great cameos in it as well. So it's very low stakes. It's not great.
Sure.
Like I will say, like it's not going to be like one of the great sitcoms. But I am very interested to see what they do with a second season because I think it has potential to be even better.
All right, guys. Well, we are wrapping up our conversation on The Devils. Rob, thanks again for presenting me with this movie. It challenged me. I think it made me a better movie watcher, even though I didn't fully appreciate it as much as I should have.
Well, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
I'm as close to that as you can be. I'm just not there yet. But like I said, that's going to wrap it up. And you guys don't need to be little devils and not like or subscribe to this podcast. Do it. Why not? It only takes like a one button click. Something that would take a little more effort. Leave us a 5-star review. We'll reward you by reading that live on air someday if you do. Don't forget, you guys can email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. If you want to exercise some of your demons, if there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, let us know what you thought of The Devils.
Yes.
Maybe what's your favorite Ken Russell movie? I know Ray's only seen one, but there's got to be people out there who have seen more than one. So by all means, let us know. You can now find us on Facebook and Instagram. By all means, give us a like on those pages. See all the fun stuff we're doing over there. You will not be disappointed. We will be back next week with a brand new episode of A Copy of a Copy, where Ray and I are going to be having our first ever guest. Mr. Kitty Kaiju is going to be joining us. He is back. He is going to join us to watch one of his favorite movies of all time, Pacific Rim. It is going to be a very passionate conversation. And the direct-to-video remake, Atlantic Rim. So it's going to be very interesting. Then we will be back in 2 weeks with Ray's episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. And I don't know.
I could try to take some revenge out on you and show you a movie I don't think you're going to like, but I'm going to save that one. I know I have one that I think you won't like.
Oh, man. That is extremely intriguing. I cannot wait for either one of those. But then we will be back at the end of the month to round out the month of May with a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I are going to be kicking off summer with a fun Back to the Beach rewatch. Yeah, this is Annette Funicello, Frankie Avalon. I remember really loving this movie, but we're going to have to see if it still holds up. But you are not going to want to miss it. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab